Welcome to the Lowcountry Revolutionaries, the podcast that dives deep into the heart of Charleston, South Carolina's vibrant entrepreneurial scene. I'm your host, Bill Billotte, founder of Veritas Exoscience, and each week we're spotlighting the boldest innovators from the Chucktown startup community. These are the visionaries pouring their heart and soul into the businesses that are transferring Charleston into a global hub of creativity and American ingenuity. Get ready for raw, real conversations with the trailblazers shaping our city's future. Let's dive in. I would like to welcome Jack Teitel. Jack founded Teitel AI in 2025. He is an AI expert with 10 plus years of experience developing and deploying AI solutions with especially in AI for manufacturing and supply chain. As an AI generalist, he has led projects in computer vision, NLP, predictive analytics, time series forecasting, and graph analysis. Natural language processing is NLP, right, Jack?
That's right, yeah.
You've got a lot of fancy stuff going on there. You sound like a math professor.
Hey, well, I was a professor for a little while, not in math, but in data science.
Oh, that's pretty
yeah,
close.
It's a fun time.
Yeah.
It's a lot of stuff. Yeah.
That's cool. So we were talking a little bit before we got on here. We're going to talk about AI in manufacturing, and we're gonna hit the fun stuff like, are the robots going to take over everybody's jobs? Is AI going to put everybody out of work so they sit at home drinking mimosas all day long? And a few other topics about, okay, what happens when you do put AI in robotics and exoskeletons and stuff like that? So what's your thought on AI in manufacturing in general, Jack?
Okay. And there's a lot of stuff to talk about when it comes to this. Manufacturing is one of the best industries I've seen that is like prepared for AI acceptance, just because things are so specific and processes are so well defined, unlike
Right.
a lot of other industries where processes are a little bit more loosely defined and managed.
Right.
I've seen there's a couple things. So there's a big difference between implementing AI in manufacturing right now versus where things are going in the
Right.
next 5 to 10 years. Right now, what I've seen as the best way to implement AI is for continuous improvement. Just like any other technology has been used for continuous improvement, picking small specific projects, tackling them with AI, measuring the inputs before, the outputs after. Can you increase cycle time?
Nice.
Can you improve quality? All of those kinds of things. And there's all sorts of things you can do from utilizing security cameras, which are already in most plants, to do things like PPE detection and safety monitoring,
Right.
to putting cameras on the line to do quality control as things get built out, to even just using AI to help assess all your stations and your process and all that kind of stuff. There's so many different things: machine monitoring, predictive maintenance. I could go on and on.
Right.
So that's what I'm seeing right now, AI being really successful in manufacturing these small, discrete, kind of like lean style projects.
That's perfect.
Yeah, where things are going, though, I think like you hit the nail on the head with robotics, is kind of what everybody is thinking about and wanting to talk about. And robotics is changing so much these days. The hardware itself is getting so cheap. In terms of like a humanoid robot, which is what
crazy.
Everybody is scared of.
Yeah.
So robotics has always been around in manufacturing, right? But usually it's these arm-style robots that come in custom
behind the fence and all that. Yeah.
Exactly, behind a fence with special tool, boxes and drawers that they can pick things from and all sorts of stuff like that. And those machines are great, but you have to really design your process around the machine, as opposed to having the machine fit the process that works really well. The thing about the world that we live in right now is it is optimized for, bipedal humanoid beings to interact with, to grab stuff and walk around and use stairs and all that kind of stuff. And machines can't always do that. So the idea of a humanoid machine, while they're a lot more complicated to build and maintain and program, the reason they're so powerful is because we don't have to adapt our environment to the robot. We just take the robot, stick it in the environment that we already have, and immediately see usefulness and benefit, which is why they're so exciting.
Yeah, that is really cool. It's funny. It's like it's somewhat things are kind of getting upended. So people have been talking about a number of years, Industry 4.0, which,
the simple concept is we're going to make everything talk to each other, all the machines and equipment, and exchange data with everybody, and everybody will be happy and kumbaya. That was Industry 4.0. And then, a lot of countries have been talking for a few years about Industry 5.0, which is it's all going to be human-centric, and everything is going to be optimized for the human. And then here comes AI strolling in like a gangster and has just flipped the table on everybody going, well, what about me? And, when AI comes in and, robots, as fancy as they look, they typically have a fairly simple control mechanism that is, as they say, pre-programmed. It does the same thing over and over again, very consistently, very precise. Now you throw in our friend AI into that mix, where it's like, hey, that was good and sort of okay. Let me see if I can tweak that and make that a little better. Let me change this here. And now you've put a little bit of, some people would call optimization in there, but some people would call that some variability in this robot. And that is what people worry about.
Yeah, the power with AI when it comes to robotics is less about optimizing the robot and more about adaptability, in my opinion.
Okay.
Because AI can basically read new circumstances, right? If it's trying to pick an object up and that object is 6 inches away from the target it was supposed to be on, a traditional robotic system fails completely.
Right.
It's a complete breakdown.
Yeah, the box problem is like
move it.
It's almost impossible for them. It's like I've heard too many roboticists talk about, they're worrying about us walking across the floor. We're just trying to pick up a box,
Right. With AI, it can recognize, hey, that box has moved 6 inches to the left. Let me just move my arm 6 inches to the left and pick it up. So it's that adaptability to changes in the environment and circumstances that allows AI. That's why AI and robotics is so powerful, because of the way So why is AI and robotics being really popular now, right?
Yeah.
We've seen AI revolution in online software with LLMs and ChatGPT and all that stuff. That's been happening for a few years. AI in what we're calling now embodied AI kind of for robotics that interacts with the physical world, is starting to become a popular phenomenon. There's two main drivers here. The first is the hardware is getting ridiculously cheap.
Exactly.
Last year, you could buy a humanoid from China. It's a company called Unitree, which is one of the leading humanoid robotics manufacturers in China. Cost $50,000.
Wow.
This year, it's $10,000.
That's crazy.
Next year, it's going to be $5,000.
Right.
So the hardware costs are dropping to the point where these things are like, really affordable.
Yeah.
And then the second piece is, well, the hardware is all there and it can perform stuff, and it has degrees of freedom and sensors to be able to view the environment and whatnot, but the programming is still tough.
Yeah.
And that's the other lever that's been driving right now, is things have been getting a lot better recently. There's a big conference in computer vision called CVPR, which just happened recently, and probably about half of the presentations there were on what we're calling VLAs, which are vision language action models. So basically, can you give AI system an image of a field or a continuous video feed, as well as natural language instructions, and have it convert that into these kind of PLA, these programmatic actions that the robot can take to accomplish the natural language task, which is basically saying, hey, here's a camera feed of the room, here's your natural language instruction, and that's all you need. Now the robot can go and do it.
Right.
And these models sucked a couple of years ago.
Oh, of course.
And now they're getting competent, right? They're not amazing yet, but they're getting there. So the fact that the software is getting so much better and these machines are getting so much easier to program due to AI enabling a lot easier development, and the hardware is getting a lot cheaper, humanoid robotics is starting to really take off. I think in the next 5-6 years or so, we're going to start seeing these a lot more in the real world doing real tasks.
Oh yeah. Well, and it's crossing over into sort of my area, which is exoskeletons. So one part of exoskeleton is what we call medical exoskeleton. It's mainly for people who have paralysis, or they may be in a rehab program to deal with paralysis, a temporary paralysis. And so, in a sense, a lot of the medical exoskeletons, you wear the things, they're a somewhat of a version, the same types of controllers, mechanisms as a humanoid robot. And so there is some technical similarities there. And just like you were saying with the humanoid robot, a medical exoskeleton fully powered to basically replace a person's legs. And a lot of people have seen this, like they had the guy who was carrying the torch for the Olympics a year or so ago. So that's a medical exoskeleton if you kind of, one version of one if you need that in your head. But they're $100,000 to $150,000. Easy. and they probably last, lifespan on those are probably around 5 years. And so, like you said, price change for those types of things and the ease of programming, because the amount of programming that goes into those kind of things, especially, people think about or they get concerned about, I've got this humanoid robot walking around me in a plane or something. Is it going to run into me? Blah, blah, blah. Well, okay, think about it. I've got it strapped onto me. I have some level of paralysis.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is a little bit different level of concern here,
Plus, so the safety concern is an interesting one.
Yeah.
Most of these humanoids are designed to be not a danger, right? Like they're 4-5 feet tall.
Right.
They weigh, 60 pounds. If they run into you, it's not hurting you. The thing is falling over.
Right.
You could push it over with one hand if you needed to.
Right.
Hockey stick. So it's an interesting piece. I'd love to change up here. That medical analogy is so fascinating, especially when you talk about safety, because safety is the biggest thing. One of the biggest things that people talk about. And you're right, like people are strapping robots onto themselves to help them move around. And,
yes.
That's if we can do that safely, like why can't we have a robot coworker safely?
Exactly. And like, the big thing with I see, especially in a manufacturing setting, is around robots. I think about, in one way, the biggest problem you see, and it's not just the robots, it could be the forklifts, it could be the hand trucks, it could be all of these things moving around a plant. And the biggest problem everybody has is the what math people call the path optimization problem, which is what's the quickest, easiest way to get from point A to point B, maybe through another point in between there, and not run into each other. And as you add more robots, whether those are, the little tug robots that are running around on 4 wheels, or the humanoids and people and some forklifts in there and a few other things, this becomes a real issue. And AI, to me, is one of those tools that might help us solve that.
That's interesting. So AI is a good tool. This is more like a graph problem, though,
yes.
Like an optimization problem, where you have all these different things moving. The really nice part about devices like this is they can all communicate in real time with each other if you have your network set up intelligently, which is doable. It just takes a little work.
Right.
So it's interesting because one of the biggest issues with like collisions is people don't know what the robots are doing. You have to rely on them seeing the robots as they're zooming towards them and then jumping out of the way if needed, maybe an extreme example. But the robots can know where every other robot is in the factory in real time all of the time. So collisions there are a bit less likely unless they're intentional.
Right.
Now, the optimization piece is really interesting because now you go from I have one robot I need to move from point A to point B to I have 12 robots moving across 24 locations all at the same time. And so you get this really complex joint optimization problem, which is very mathy. And AI can be, a lot of what AI does is kind of those optimization style problems. So a lot of the algorithms and whatnot being developed here can help with that a lot. But I think those types of factories, for most folks, especially folks here in the Lowcountry, are decades down the line, potentially, where you could have dozens of robots. Like that is a long-reaching problem. One problem that I've heard a lot of manufacturers bring up, maybe not problem necessarily, but fear is maybe a better word, is around job loss to robots, which I think is a really important thing here. And it's a tough topic to broach, right?
Sure.
Everybody wants to talk about getting more efficient and having better factories and lowering costs and being able to take on more work and grow. But when you bring things like AI and robotics into the conversation, there's a lot of fear around that, especially because of the kind of unknowns of these systems. These are new systems that involve new ways to work that we are incorporating into, the status quo. And, anytime you do that, there's going to be a lot of fear surrounding this. People are worried about losing their jobs to AI, being replaced by robotics. I don't know if you've heard any rumblings about this.
Oh, yeah. I mean, talking to people in the robots and even exoskeleton world, you hear this all the time. And, when you talk to the roboticist, they'll say, usually a robot actually ends up, yes, it will replace, if you're looking at a job where it's a very repetitive task, or not only is it repetitive, but it's dangerous for a person to do. A robot seems to be like the win-win solution there. Yes, that person doing it before is not doing it, but now there's an opportunity for that person to do something else. And that is typically what's happening. It's not, from what I've heard talking to a lot of people, it's not that people are not being able to do a job. It's that they're getting displaced from one job to a different type of job. Now, the hope is that it's a higher quality job. That is what everybody's kind of aiming for in this win-win situation. And same thing with AI. AI is really good. How many people use AI right now to do computer programming? Even computer programmers who are professionals in it use it. And so, do you need as many computer programmers to do the same amount of work? That is the key question. It's not like you don't need any, but that number changes, and that's what people are concerned with.
I'm going to jump in here. That is an excellent kind of start off to what I like to talk about when talking about this problem and how I think about AI as a solution here. When we're dealing with job loss due to AI, like you said, it's not just job loss. There's also job creation, right? Whether it's robotics or, I don't want to call them traditional AI systems. We could call them computer-based AI systems versus embodied robotics-based systems. Somebody needs to manage it. Somebody needs to validate it. Somebody needs to monitor it as time goes on and the data changes. Somebody needs to adapt it as the business grows and you're doing more things. Someone needs to add on components. So there's a lot of kind of AI management stuff that needs to happen, AI ownership and management. So those are new jobs that are being created. And it's funny, with every new technology, there's all sorts of new stuff popping up, like social media managers. Who would have thought that a social media manager type position would have existed 40 years ago? It's just nobody would have, or software developer
or
as a field.
Or prompt engineer into the AI. I mean, I hate to call them engineers, but that's what, the name is out there. It's like, it's tough.
In terms of like being worried about job loss, there will be job creation and there's going to be plenty of it.
Yeah.
But the other piece here is something that I find very interesting, which has to do with company size when implementing AI. So let's say we go into a company and we can make it 10, 20% more efficient by implementing AI and all sorts of processes. We can argue about the numbers there, but let's just go in with the base level assumptions, 10 to 20%.
Right.
If I go into a large enterprise business, we're talking Mercedes, Volvo, BMW, and make them 20% more efficient.
Oh, yeah. That's
they
huge.
Can't go out and get 20% more business, right? Like they don't have the customer pool to be able to say, okay, I'm 20% more efficient. I'm going to keep my staff and build 20% more cars and sell those. That's not a thing. So what a lot of these larger enterprise companies are doing are cutting staff. Now let's look on the other side of the coin for the small and mid-sized manufacturers. I think about 80% of manufacturers in Lowcountry are that small to mid-sized group. I think under 100 or 200 or so. So the vast majority of manufacturers here in the Lowcountry and generally South Carolina. When we go into a small company and make them 20% more efficient, they don't go out there and get rid of their staff, right? What they do is they boost sales, right? A small company that's making $5 million a year or to, $20, $50 million a year, they can go out and get 20% more business, right? We can pour gas on that fire and it grows. And instead of firing these people who know your business well and have been trained in your business, you just move them around to different jobs, right? They're more AI focused, maybe more back office focused, maybe take some people, get them doing more sales type work and grow the business that way. So what I'm seeing is a lot of growth in these small and mid-sized companies, while we do see some shrinking in the larger kind of enterprise level organizations.
Right.
So what I'm seeing is kind of this rebalancing
That's funny.
of wealth across these different company sizes,
Yeah.
which is awesome in my opinion, right? Like
Right.
company founders are up, what's it, something like 30% over the past 2 years.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurship is up because people are empowered, like can start their own companies. You can have ChatGPT or Claude help you write contracts and help you
Exactly.
figure out a sales stuff and a business plan and all these different things that you just would have had to do by yourself before, or pay somebody to do with money that you don't have.
Right.
So the democratization of access and knowledge, as well as empowering businesses to do more with less, means that the bigger companies, don't have as much of an edge anymore, and the
Right.
smaller and mid-sized companies can really compete, very competitively when they're using these tools, which I think is awesome. So that's another kind of offset to this job loss concern. Like, we're seeing job loss at that enterprise level, but we're seeing job gain at the smaller level.
Yeah, I love that.
And I want to say one last little piece here. When you were saying about software engineers,
Yeah.
do we need as many because we're all using it to write code? Like, yeah, I write probably 95% of the code I write is built by AI,
Right.
with my supervision, validation, whatnot. But demand for software engineers is on the rise
Really?
because the cost, it's classic supply and demand, right?
Yeah.
The supply cost goes down. It's way cheaper to build software.
Yeah.
So demand goes way up. Everybody wants an app. Everybody
funny.
wants to build custom
Yeah.
stuff. All of that kind of things. People vibe code a lot, and then they get it 80% of the way, and then they need an expert to come in and get it the last 10, 20%.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, no, I don't think software engineers are going anywhere, even though AI is writing most of the code,
Well, and yeah, I've had that exact same experience, and I've told people this that same number. So AI in a lot of areas will get you about 80%, and you yes, it gets you past that initial hurdle, but you do need some expertise to kind of close the loop. Especially, you need somebody with the expertise to kind of validate you're actually getting what you're supposed to get there. And
yeah.
I love what you're saying about the small and medium-sized businesses, because that makes a lot of sense. One of the classic problems, especially with a small business, but even with a medium business, but I see in the world I work in the exoskeleton technology world, the majority of the people are very similar to what we have here in the Lowcountry. A lot of small businesses, 80, 90+% small businesses, and super smart, and they've got a product, but they've got a 1 to 10 kind of almost handmade type product, and it's going from that onesie twosie, up to, hey, I need to produce 1,000 now or 2,000 now. That scaling problem, whether it's a hard product or a software product or something, that's huge, and that has always been a huge hurdle to jump over. And maybe AI is one of the tools that will make that hurdle a lot smaller.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting angle there, using AI to help enable scale and going from that smaller scale to large scale. Because you're right, there's a lot of like business process things that need to change there. And having somebody who's just on call 24/7 to answer questions and help feed ideas to you around those things is really helpful if you're taking advantage of it and using it.
Right. Yeah, and that's kind of the thing. It's almost like one of the needs we have here is like a business course on how to utilize AI. And when I talk to a lot of different businesses around here, most of them are using more than one. Very, very rare do I hear of a business that's only using one AI tool for everything. Usually I see 3, 4, maybe 5. And they're having the AIs talk to each other sometimes, and all of those things. So, that's one of the things I think is something that's probably going to be a change we're going to see in academic programs and Trident Tech and places like that, where, okay, how do we use AI now as just another tool, as part of business, as part of kind of growing and doing stuff?
Yeah, let me take off my implementation hat here, because I'm put on my professor. I have this kind of dual aspect where I do academia and I teach courses and things like that. But my main focus is always on implementation, bringing impact to businesses with this technology. Right. But I'll ditch that hat for put on the professor hat, and we can talk about the education side of things here. It's crazy. Yeah. The landscape right now for AI education is insane. Because this stuff moves so fast, right? It's so hard to keep up with. There is great content out there, which I can plug a few people in a minute here, but I just want to talk about the general thing. A lot of what we see about AI on social media for people who are technically inclined and following along with what different people are doing with AI, a lot of it is pretty performative. Mm-hmm. Meaning, I've strung together these 12 AI systems that all have a conversation with each other, and that solved my problems. Those types of systems usually aren't useful, right? Like they can be, but the expense of paying for all these models to have this long,
all the tokens,
the amount of time it takes, all the tokens, the cost, and the time, just to get an answer that's like 5% better than if you just went and asked Claude. Yeah. There's this big gap between what people are posting about AI on social media and the people that I've seen who are actually building with AI, what they're doing.
Right.
And it's very interesting to see this gap. And then when it comes to education, right, that's a skill in and of itself, being able to teach people and communicate these concepts in a way that people can understand. And so the educators are also, if you're spending all your time building courses and learning about this stuff without actually implementing it, there can be a gap there as well. So, personally, I found it can be hard to find resources that I trust out there to educate myself on AI systems. I think Claude, I use Claude for most of my stuff. That's kind of my base layer. If you're using something else, I highly recommend you just go try Claude. You're probably going to like it. And they have this kind of Claude Academy where they teach you the basics of AI, how to work with it, how to use co-work versus chat, how to use Claude Code, all these different things to get that kind of baseline understanding. And then, there's all sorts of things online. Deeplearning.ai from Andrew and G is an excellent resource, although a little bit more technical maybe than the average user would be expecting. So if you're looking to get into the weeds, that's a great place to look. Obviously YouTube is great, but it's hit or miss. You can find
you don't know what you're getting.
You don't know what you're getting.
Yeah.
To me, what I've found is always the best way to learn AI, which is what I recommend to everybody, is to just go and do it.
Yeah.
Right. Get out there and try some stuff. It doesn't take that long to get used to. You can ask the AI how to get better results. And if you do something, it doesn't give you what you want, ask it. How can I do this better? And it will tell you. It can be both the tool and the instructor at the same time, which is awesome. And in manufacturing, I don't know if I can say this yet. The ink has just dried on the contract.
Okay.
But I do have some manufacturing specific AI education stuff coming out soon, probably in the fall.
That'll be awesome.
So I'll be sharing that as well. If you're in manufacturing, you want to learn more about AI, we've got some things like workshops and courses and whatnot planned that can help you, learn like what is a good AI project and what data does a good AI project need, and how do you validate an AI system appropriately, and all those kinds of the nitty gritty details that maybe aren't the sexy side of AI where, I had Claude write me, a 20-page article.
Right.
It's like, okay, well, how do I get the data that I need to do this? And what data do I even need?
Right.
And how do I know if it's working? That kind of stuff, which is honestly the most important part. I've been building AI systems for over a decade now. And it hasn't changed. That validating the systems is like 60% of the job.
Yeah.
And it always has been, and it has continued to be very steadily through all the different technology revolutions within AI that we've seen. And it's going to continue to be.
That's cool. Yeah. Are you, there's a big South Carolina manufacturing conference every year. It's up in the Greenville. Are you planning to be at that and kind of talk about some of this at some point?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be there. Whether I'm going to be talking or not is as yet unseen, I'll say. But I will be there. I was just at Dig South, which was a fun time.
Dig South,
presentations there. That was a great time. Presenting at this fun conference for programmers called Carolina Code Conference, also
Nice.
up in Greenville at the end of August. That'll be fun. Talking about computer vision and how to you can detect and segment things and images, all sorts of stuff.
That's cool. So, yeah, I getting people to kind of have a concept around AI and figuring out how to use it and how best to use it for their situation versus, where do I start kind of stuff. It's like you said, I think the easiest way is just try some things, experiment with it, don't spend a lot of money, try the free stuff first, before you get real serious about spending money, especially on tokens and stuff. And, I would say, when I talk to people that have some, you sort of need this advice works better if you have like some engineering background or math background. And I tell people, it's like, if you're thinking about AI, one place to start is if you've ever had a class where they've taught you how to do linear regression. Basically, how do you have a graph with dots on it and you draw a line where the line fits through the dots? That's curve fitting or linear regression. If you can get that basic concept of how to fit data and then how to take that, go to Excel or any of your spreadsheet thing, and you put in some imaginary data and it'll fit some data, and it'll also say, here's the trend. Well, that extra little trend thing is the prediction. And so that is the sort of birthplace, in a sense, of large language models and all that kind of stuff. But you do have to have sort of engineering math background to kind of get that analogy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, man, I could get really, really deep into the mathematical needs on this, but I think I'll hold off on that. Maybe
we can do that sometime.
Focused one next time, where we go all about the origins of the mathematical underpinnings of AI, which is a fun time, in my opinion. I taught a course that was related to that. I've taken several very hard courses related to that. Very, very interesting stuff. But anyway, when it comes to AI, understanding it and using it are two different things now.
Yeah.
It used to be, 5-10 years ago, you had to know how the models work to be able to get real utility out of them.
Right.
You don't need to know how ChatGPT works to be able to use ChatGPT these days.
Right.
But you do need to know when it's wrong and how to tell if it's right and how to be able to like I said, that validating the output stuff. I've met a lot of people who are completely non-technical, who are writing their own software and deploying real apps. And I would say probably 9 out of 10 people that are non-technical that are building apps that I see don't make it to an actual production level app that they're able to sell because it's too hard. But 1 out of 10 people is still a lot. Well, and to think about somebody with no coding experience or technical background being able to produce an app, even if that's 1 in 10, 1 in 20 people, that's more than it used to be by a lot. So, pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a Herculean effort, or it used to be able to do that. And I would say, people doing that, if you can break something down into a flow chart, at this point you can take a flow chart and the AI can write the code that matches up to that. And like you said, you can get probably good 80-90% there, depending on how good that matchup is. But you may really, to get to that, finished state, you may need an expert to kind of do that last bit, but still that's a huge change from nothing before, right?
Yeah, that's where I'm seeing a lot of the work come through my doors these days. I've had several projects in the past year, which are people just saying, hey, I vibe coded this app and I think it's good enough, but I'm having a couple problems I can't pin down, or I want you to check it over before I ship it to production and make sure everything's secure.
Yeah.
It's very interesting picking this stuff apart. I've seen some systems, I can't say too much. I'll say it's a sports AI project, computer vision for sports analytics.
Yeah.
And the AI system, this is a type of system that I've built for years, doing these kind of sports analytics and, player movement detection and tracking and all that kind of stuff. And so I know how to build a system like this, hands down. I know exactly what to do. And I look and I saw what the AI system did, and the hardest parts, traditionally what I would consider to be the hardest parts, it absolutely nailed. It killed it. It did really, really well. And traditionally, some of the easiest parts, it did horribly.
Yes.
This is insane, right? Like this part should be really easy. There's like a really standard approach to
Right,
doing this, and it
right.
totally goofed up. And the really hard part that I'm like, there's no way it's going to get this. It totally nailed it. I'm just like, it's a very strange situation out there these days with this vibe coding and AI coding.
Oh yeah.
And I think, like you said, when it comes to like you were talking about when it comes to building flowcharts, systems, understanding how to build good systems is now the skill to have.
Exactly. The basics.
Understanding how to build the system. You don't need to know how to write the code,
right,
or what the language syntax is, or how to write efficient code. Claude can do all of that. You're not going to do it. You know, maybe you'll get a 10% improvement over Claude in those elements, but who cares?
Yeah.
Right. Knowing how to architect a good system,
yes,
knowing how to build a code base that will scale, right? When you keep adding changes and updates to it over the course of a year or two, how it will scale and not become this heap of, spaghetti that's all piled together and knotted.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Those are the skills that people have, which is very that people need to build the software, and it's a muscle that software folks have developed through building.
Right.
But other people with like a very systems oriented mind and process oriented mind also are finding themselves to be really well accustomed to that type of work and starting to build these apps, which is a very cool thing to see.
Oh yeah, it's a lot quicker to go now from an idea to sort of proof of concept type stuff, and that's an exciting thing right now.
Yeah.
So I have to ask, so what advice do you have for other Lowcountry entrepreneurs that are playing around thinking about AI right now, and what should they do? What should they think about?
Man, it's so tough. There's such a large bucket of things you can do with AI these days that one piece of advice feels like not enough. I'll do my best here though. Just go out and build stuff is always the first and last piece of advice that I give. Go out and try it yourself. And if you can't do it, then ask for help. It's totally fine. But these days, take an hour and just go see if it's possible. This maybe is a hot take these days. OpenAI is starting to gain popularity, and modern ChatGPT models are very much in favor. I still like Claude.
Right.
I think that whether you're sticking with Claude or ChatGPT, download the app and start playing around with the work function. I think they just call it work in ChatGPT, and co-work in Claude, where it can actually do stuff on your machine for you.
Cool.
Yeah, I just get out there and build stuff.
Yeah, I like that.
That's the end all be all for me.
Yeah, just build stuff. Try some things out. What's worked for me is like, if you get like obsessed or passionate about an idea, give it a shot. Sometimes just pounding through that, even if it doesn't turn out the way you want, you learn a lot of stuff. Yeah.
And like I think we mentioned this earlier, not just using AI, these systems as a tool to help you accomplish your idea, using it as like a thinking partner is what I find to be really the best way to do it. So instead of just, dumping it text and saying, build this thing, and then it builds it, and that's the end of the conversation, work with it to design a plan, right? Here's what I'm thinking about. How would you build this? Well, what's the strengths and weaknesses of that? What would happen if this thing broke? How would it get fixed? Like, use it as a thought partner to bounce ideas off of, and for it to bounce ideas off of you. That I found to be really, really powerful.
That's cool.
Because the way I usually think about these systems and encourage others to think about these systems are, imagine AI as a new hire to your company, and they have a degree in everything that exists. They have a degree in. But they've never worked a day in their life.
Oh, yeah.
They have no idea how to do work or what it takes to do a job or anything about your business and how you want to do things.
Wow.
So if you tell it to do something really explicitly, it'll do it. And if you ask it a question, it'll have an answer. But it's rarely going to take that initiative to do things. And when it does, it will often do them incorrectly. Right. So that's generally how I tell people to think about it.
That's cool. That's a great way. That is a great way to kind of think about it. It's sort of like the new person who's got a degree in everything but has no work experience. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what it is, right? It doesn't know anything about how to do things the right way or how to build stuff. It knows. I don't know, it's a very, very interesting piece of software these days and always changing. We're still seeing great updates.
it's kind of breaking the like one of the things that's been a problem for a little while is like all of the models have somewhat short-term memory loss. It's like if you talk to them today and then you talk to them tomorrow, it's like they forgot completely everything you talked about the day before. I'm like, oh, we have to start over again, kind of thing. And but that's getting better these days.
Yeah, there's all systems for that, right? In Cloud projects where you can upload files.
Right.
You can have apps that act as external knowledge bases. People like to use things like Notion and Obsidian for knowledge storage. You just have the LLM write down stuff it wants to remember in a dedicated space, and then it can go look that stuff up later. But also skills are very interesting, right? Have you played around with skills at all?
Not yet.
So skills were originally a Claude thing, but now everybody's picked them up.
Everybody's got it.
Gemini has it. ChatGPT has it. Similar to how they all picked up MCP, but the adoption for skills is a lot faster than the adoption for MCP. MCP took about a year, maybe even a year and a half to catch on.
Yeah.
Skills took like 4 months to catch on because they are really powerful. And basically all it is it's a way to define a repeated workflow. And that's it. So you just have this kind of block of files. It starts with one main file, and you can include code files as tools attached to that, reference files for things it can look up, all in this little skill package.
Yeah.
And what it does is it starts with just a description, which is a couple sentences about what the skill does. Right. And then it has this huge, long actual body that are the instructions for how to do the skill or the workflow. Wow.
Yeah.
And only the description, those 1 or 2 sentences describing when to use the skill, get loaded into context when you write a query. And then the AI system will automatically read all of those, read your question, and then say, are any of these skills relevant to this question? If they are, I'm going to load in the whole thing.
Yeah.
So you can have this whole library of skills and workflows and things that you've built out that are just called automatically on demand by the system when they're needed.
That's smart.
So some examples that I found really powerful are just like a branding skill.
Yeah.
Right. When I produce documents with this tool, I want them to be Teitel AI branded, my logo, my fonts.
Exactly.
My
the same way every time. Yeah.
And so you just have a skill that basically you can literally just put your branding kit or your logo into Claude and say, build the skill that brands documents according to this brand kit. Wow. Click enter, it'll build the skill. You save the skill into Claude. And now anytime you generate a document, it will, okay, I'm generating a document. Let me read my document branding skill. And then it'll do all the branding for your document automatically. And it works really well. And that just concept of these repeated, automatically triggered workflows are super powerful when you think about all the ways that extends and all the different types of flows you can have to like look up data or check your emails or write or draft messages or build a LinkedIn post or whatever you want there. When you talk about like repetitive work or having to start from scratch with AI, that's one of the main tools to help reduce that.
That's really cool. That's cool. Well, Jack, this has been wonderful. And thank you for your time today. And come back on when you have more especially about the training thing you're doing. That sounds really exciting.
Of course, Bill. I'm sure I'll be back. Thanks for having me on again, by the way.
No problem. Thank you.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Lowcountry Revolutionaries. Thanks for joining us as we celebrate the fearless entrepreneurs making wave in Charleston's Chucktown Startups community. I'm Bill Billotte, and it's been an honor to share these inspiring stories with you. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs a spark of low country innovation. Until next time, keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.